What happens if you spend at least 20 minutes outside every single day? In 2017, I set out to find out. Welcome to the Humans Outside Weekly Diary, where I tell you my own lessons from a life spent outside. What did I do and learn while going outside this week? That and this week's Real Outdoor Hero, up next. Would you believe me if I told you I wasn't always someone who likes to go outside? Would you believe me if I said I was categorically not an outdoor person? I've been thinking a lot about how I got to this place of being nature-minded, about how it was I went from an indoor person to an outdoor person, and the stories I tell myself now. I've been thinking about the stories I tell myself, about the stories you tell yourself about you, and about how they make a difference in how we act. And I've been thinking about all the ways spending concentrated, intentional time outside has dramatically changed my life and relationships, especially my relationship with my husband, Luke, someone who I love and appreciate in a way that is so much deeper than it was before heading into nature was a central part of who we are. And I know that's cheesy, and I'm not even sorry. I can't talk about all of these things in just one diary episode, so I'm going to spread it out a little. And first, I think, before anything else, I have to talk about who I used to be. I used to be an inside person. I still sometimes think of myself that way, although I think we could all agree that I'm not really. Even saying that makes me a little uncomfortable. Am I not an inside person? Because I do really like my couch and my Netflix. But I guess that's not what makes you an inside person, is it? I did not grow up spending tons of time outside. I grew up wandering the beach as a playground, but my family never went into nature on purpose. If anything, we avoided it. It was a lot of work, really, to take my large family outside. And then there was dirt, and then there was cleaning up. And that just didn't seem that worth it, so we didn't really do nature stuff. And since you become an adult holding on to the things that brought you up, I headed out into the world clinging to all of those creature comforts. And then I married Luke. I agreed to go camping with him, but the poor guy wasn't exactly set up for success. He had to sleep in his one-man tent, and I do not recommend that if you're trying to woo your wife into a love of the outdoors, you do that. And it was a hot night, and there were so many flies. Oh, and I had just found out I was pregnant with our first son, and whew, that was a lot of emotion. I basically swore off camping after that, or really anything that wasn't a lot of inside versus outside. Fast forward about 6 years, and we rented kayaks from the on-base outdoor shop, which, now that I'm thinking about it, was actually my idea, and took them floating down a local river. Luke enjoyed this so much that he bought himself one, and then later a second one so that we could both go, even though kayaking wasn't really my thing. And all of a sudden, the door opened to showing us the kind of release brought by spending time outside. Next thing you know, the whole family's going camping, complete with everything we've ever owned, or that's how it felt. Lord, we took a lot of stuff with us. And why did I agree to do this? Because Luke really wanted to take the boys camping, and a very wise mentor told me that if I didn't agree to go with them, they would go without me. That sounded bad. So I agreed to go camping if we went to a place with flushing toilets, and if I could sleep on a cot. The man knew it in when he saw one, and so off we went. And wouldn't you know it, but it didn't take long for me to realize that campsites without running water were quieter and more fun for us, and that we were all in better moods when we came home from camping or when we were at a campground than we were when we were at home. And you know what happens when you do something and it makes you feel better? You crave it. So obviously, we went more, as often as possible, really. It was an hour door-to-door from our house to our favorite backcountry camp spot in Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area, and the release it brought was marvelous. It took a while, but we realized that we really wanted was nature all the time, and not when the Army, which literally gave Luke his marching orders, said we could take the time to have it. We wanted it to be a part of, everything, every day. That meant making a big life change, so Luke got out of the Army, and since I have a flair for the dramatic, we thought, hey, why not make the big life change really big? So we moved to Alaska. You've heard this part of the story before. We'd never been here, but we hoped it would be what we needed, and it was. And through this move and the lessons that I learned here, I shifted my life to be less about priorities inside and more about spending time outside, finding new hobbies, expanding how I thought about myself, and changing what we did with our time. Which brings me back to this. When I started Humans Outside, would you believe I used the tagline that was something like, indoor people in an outdoor world? I simply did not consider myself outdoorsy, and I still struggle to see myself as an outdoors person, maybe because when I picture someone outdoorsy, I do not picture me. I think of myself now as someone who is working to be outdoorsy. But it's up to me if I let that guide my decisions. If I think of myself as just someone who is trying to become outdoorsy instead of someone who is outdoorsy, I am more likely to make decisions that are less bold or less outdoor-centric. If I am outdoorsy, maybe choosing a camping trip over an evening at home is the obvious outcome. If I am working to be outdoorsy, maybe it's harder to make that decision. This is also true in how I talk to myself about how I hate bugs. I tell myself how much I hate flies. But instead, if I tell myself that while they aren't my favorite, I don't hate them, how would my willingness to deal with them change? Understanding the stories I tell myself about me is the first step to changing them. I'm not going to say I'm totally there yet, but I'm growing in my awareness. And I invite you all to join me in thinking about this. What stories about how you approach nature do you tell yourself? Stop and think about it a little, and take the time to confront those that aren't the stories you want to be living. You can catch the things I'm doing outside on my Instagram feed and on Facebook at Humans Outside. I'm going to warn you, right now this involves a lot of running as I prepare for this really tough run I'm doing at the end of July. So, save me from all of these running photos I'm taking by sharing your outside time photos with me and tag them with Humans Outside 365. Until next time, we'll see you out there.